Daredevil is one of Marvel's darkest characters, and in an effort to appropriately convey the world outside your window, it makes sense for Matt Murdock to be a flawed and somewhat relatable character too. It's just what made him so compelling to begin with. That being said, there are certain instances from the character's past that are fairly contemptible. He's toppled criminal empires and then assumed control of them, being the leader of an ancient ninja clan, and though his code forbids it, killed a fair few criminals too. He might be my fave, but he's got issues. I'm Ewan, you're watching What Culture Comics, and here are the 8 worst things Daredevil has ever done. Number 8. He got possessed by an evil spirit and took over the hand. Although Daredevil has fostered a reputation for storytelling excellence throughout his history, with the likes of Frank Miller, Ann Nocenti, Brian Bendis, and Ed Brubaker all having left their own marks on the character in their own way, there have been a few occasions where things have taken a turn for the worse. One such turn came surprisingly during Andy Diggle's stint on the character, and while that writer has countless classics to his name, including the brilliant Green Arrow Year 1 and The Losers, his run on Daredevil just wasn't meant to be. Its most problematic elements are exemplified by a short-lived crossover event called Shadowland, which involved the street-level heroes of New York uniting to take down an evil Matt Murdock possessed by an ancient spirit of the hand. So, both literally and figuratively, this was one of Daredevil's lowest moments. He killed Bullseye, drained Ghost Rider of his hellfire, and, well, pretty much terrorized New York for the majority of his time as the leader of the Hand. Number 7. He almost murdered a baby. Kevin Smith and Joe Quesada's Daredevil Guardian Devil made for all the characters better stories, but there's no denying Matt almost did something very, very bad in it. The premise behind Smith's comic makes Guardian Devil fall alongside the character's more supernatural tales, with the plot focusing on a child who is said to be either one of two things, the Antichrist or the Messiah, finding his way to Matt during a typically troublesome time in the character's life. Soon, Daredevil is contacted by a man claiming to be a part of a religious order. He tells him that the child must be killed because he is, in fact, the harbinger of the apocalypse, and Daredevil, already faced with a myriad of stresses, including Foggy being framed for murder, comes close to believing him. He comes so close, in fact, that he nearly throws the goddamn baby off a goddamn building after an encounter with Black Widow, who comes to New York to make sure that he's doing okay. It later transpires that Daredevil was dosed by a special hallucinogen courtesy of a terminally ill Mysterio, so he wasn't at all about his senses when the attempted baby murder took place. Still, that didn't stop Matt from attacking Black Widow, and in nearly killing the child too, Mysterio's plan came dangerously close to a successful end. Number 6. That time he became Kingpin. Brian Bendis and Alex Maleev's Daredevil is the very definition of a modern classic. It rivals the works of Miller and Nocenti with ease, but while the Daredevil of these stories was very clearly meant to be a hero, Bendis pushed Matt Murdock in a new and frightening direction during the Marvel Knights era, one which saw the Devil of Hell's Kitchen slowly become its new Kingpin. This was a moment that had been building for years at this point, with Matt having experienced repeated trauma at the hands of New York's most feared crime boss, and when the Kingpin finds himself out of prison once more, he basically cracks. Ignoring the usual protocol, Daredevil barges into the Kingpin as he's having a meal and beats him half to death then and there, proclaiming with equal ferocity that he, not Wilson Fisk, is now in charge of Hell's Kitchen. From there on in, Matt's life would spiral out of control. The Kingpin would mastermind his revenge from behind bars, leaking Daredevil's real identity to the press. Matt's personal life would collapse, with the mental well-being of his wife Mia Donovan first to crumble, and then, by its end, he'd find himself in prison. Bendis and Maleev's run was fantastic because it showed that Matt had limits, a breaking point even. What better way to show it than by having him assume the role of his most hated adversary? Number 5. He would have totally killed the Punisher. Love him or hate him, there's no denying that the Punisher always manages to shake up the superhero formula when he arrives. The character has always been at his best when placed next to Marvel's more principled heroes, and in Daredevil, Frank Castle found his ultimate rival. And in Garth Ennis and Steve Dillon's seminal Punisher Max series, the duo lay bare the intricacies of that dynamic superbly. You see, Ennis was never a big fan of superheroes, and he uses Daredevil to level his criticism of them in full. The scene in question is one most audiences will also now be familiar with, having been adapted for the small screen in Daredevil Season 2, but it's no less devastating to read on the page. In an effort to prove that Matt Murdock's moral code can be broken easily, Castle knocks the man without fear out and chains him to a telegraph pole on a rooftop. Taping a revolver to his hand, Punisher awakens his captive and poses the following problem. On the street are a set of thugs he's about to kill. The only way Daredevil can stop him, ostensibly, is to shoot him, and to shoot to kill. It takes a lot of back and forth, but Daredevil eventually relents and pulls the trigger. The chamber's empty though, and Punisher walks away with his point proven. Matt Murdock is as much of a killer as he is. Number 4. He's a complete and total death magnet. Being the partner to any crime fighter has always been a hazardous occupation. With Daredevil, however, it's a whole other thing entirely. Everyone he seems to love just seems to die or have their life ruined in some way, whether it be inflicted by the blade of a wayward assassin through his own mental struggles, or via the machinations of one of his many nemeses. Elektra was infamously stabbed to death with her own sigh by Bullseye during Frank Miller's stint on the character. Karen Page was subsequently killed in Daredevil Guardian Devil, and his one-time partner Heather Glenn died by her own hand after Murdock mistreated her during their relationship. Others to have perished after having been with Daredevil include Gloriana O'Brien, defenestrated onto the streets by a B-list Marvel villain, and Echo. And while this is as much a testament to the medium's refrigerator syndrome as it is Matt's horrendous love life, it doesn't make for good reading. Number 3. How he reacted to the Purple Children erasing everyone's memory. During Brian Bendis' stint on Daredevil, the writer took the bold decision to reveal the character's secret identity to the public. The Murdock Papers fundamentally altered the course of the character's history for over a decade, setting a new status quo that defined Daredevil for a 21st century audience. But this all changed by the time Marvel Now came around in 2015. Sporting a new creative team in Charles Soule and Ron Garney and a brand new black and red outfit, Matt switched professions to become a DA and reassumed his nighttime endeavors in New York. By the book's 20th issue, however, it became clear that the status quo was being switched again. There, it transpired that the Purple Children, the telepathic relatives of the villainous Kilgrave, erased the world's knowledge of his identity as Daredevil. It was as if the clocks had been set back by over 10 years. Gifted with a newfound freedom, Matt adopts his old costume and terrorizes Hell's Kitchen's underworld, safe in the knowledge that no repercussions could possibly await him in his civilian life. While this could be seen as a semi-harmless move on Matt's behalf, it's equally true that the children invaded the minds of millions of individuals to make it happen. That's a gross invasion of privacy no matter how you look at it, not to mention a massive step back narratively speaking. Number 2. All the times he killed someone. Daredevil isn't as renowned for his no-killing rule as, say, The Dark Knight is, but he does view it as a line to avoid crossing. The eponymous Man Without Fear kills dozens in Miller's book of the same name, although he was still finding his identity as a vigilante at that point in time. Then there was the death of Bullseye, who Daredevil murdered when he was possessed by the aforementioned ninja spirit. The Fixer, who'd killed his father, Battling Jack Murdock, died of a heart attack after an exhaustive chase, and countless other Marvel heroes in various what-if stories. Although retconned to become Typhoid Mary's origin story, Daredevil also accidentally forced a prostitute out of a window after taking down a brothel. Can you believe this too was a Frank Miller tale? Mary then returned as a mentally unstable assassin drawn to and against Daredevil during Ann Nocenti's brilliant run on the character. It's not unforgivable, but the next time he and Punisher cross wits, Frank would be wise to point towards Daredevil's many past offenses. And number 1. The way he treated Black Widow. The window to see this particular team-up in the MCU may have expired long ago, but going off the comics, that's probably for the best. While the former KGB spy and the Devil of Hell's Kitchen have been allies for decades, when they were dating in the 70s, Murdock didn't behave heroically in the slightest. In Daredevil number 120, written by Tony Isabella, Natasha was beginning to have doubts about their partnership. And how does the Man Without Fear react? With a bit of old-fashioned sexism, obviously. The panel here tells it all, which sees Matt slapping and objectifying his partner in equal measure. It's equal parts cringeworthy and just plain uncharacteristic, with Murdock's particular brand of misogyny provoking the ire of one of Marvel's most talented assassins in the process. And well, those were the 8 worst things Daredevil has ever done. Know of any other foul crimes committed by old Hornhead? Let us know in the comments below, drop the video a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to Our Culture Comics so you don't miss another upload going forward. I've been Ewan. You can catch me on Twitter hyping up Matt Murdock's gooder moments at Ewan Ruins Things, and I'll hopefully see you next time. Bye!